I'm Bruce Archambault. I'm a quarterback for Cheyenne Mountain High School, class of 2024, and you're listening to Playmakers Corner.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm your host for today, Simon Villanoz, aka Coach V here, and we got another interview here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man? Your name, what position you play, your class, and the school you're at.
My name is Bruce Archambault. I go to Cheyenne Mountain High School. I play quarterback, and I am class of 2024.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay. So I got to make sure I say your last name right. I feel like I've been saying it wrong these last 2 years, but it's Archambault, right?
Yes, sir. Archambault.
Okay, I got you. I got you from now on. I got you. I was, I always was a little suspect about how to say your name, but I figured it couldn't hurt to ask right here, right now. But all right, man. Well, hey, Bruce, welcome to the podcast here. I do gotta just tell a quick little funny story here. So we actually met at a park here at Venezia. One of my part-time jobs is working for the city, setting up their leagues and whatnot. And I guess you just recognized me, isn't that right, Bruce?
I did. Yeah, I was actually out there training with my private quarterback coach, and I heard you telling some people that they had to move off a field or something. And I thought it was your voice because I'd heard your podcast because you've done a Cheyenne Mountain preview before. And I was like, man, there's no way that's him because the chances of that and me recognizing his voice are just it's just not going to happen. But I went up anyway, and I was like, hey, are you the guy that runs Playmakers Corner? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's awesome. And then, it's kind of how we started talking about maybe getting me on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, man, and I'm happy to have you on here. I've been, like you said, I've done a season preview on y'all last year, and I think Cheyenne Mountain might have been one of the few teams that I did a season preview on 2 years ago when you first became the starter as well. It was real quick, but it's cool to be able to have you on here. You are one of the first Cheyenne Mountain players, and it should be a good time, man. So with that being said here, let's kind of get into the intro questions here. Let the people really know who you are, man. But one of the first questions we ask everyone on the show is, what's your favorite sports memory as a fan here? I know the Nuggets just won a championship here. I don't know if you're a Nuggets fan or whatnot, but what's one of your favorite sports memories as a fan, and why?
Well, I am a Broncos fan, so I guess the Super Bowl I guess it was 2016. That was pretty cool. I was younger then. I'm definitely more into football now, so it's kind of been a bummer being a Broncos fan this past couple years. But my mom's a Chiefs fan, and honestly, so whenever the Chiefs play, I just love watching them because Patrick Mahomes is so fun to watch, and so I don't know. Yeah, I guess either the Broncos Super Bowl or just watching any super close Chiefs game. I know the Chiefs versus the Bills last year in the playoffs. That was crazy when there
Yep.
was 2 minutes left and there was a shootout. So.
Oh yeah, no, I got you. That must be an interesting dynamic in that household for sure, though. Having a
It
Broncos
is.
fan and Chiefs fan.
Yeah. Yep. There's definitely some. Yeah. We always have two TVs on in case they play at the same time, so someone can go downstairs and. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. No, I got you. All right, fair enough, fair enough. Well, with that being said, obviously you're an athlete, and so the other question that we ask everyone is, what's your favorite sports memory as an athlete? So something that you're actively participating in. Doesn't just have to be football, by the way. It could be any sport here. So there you go there.
So this last year we played Air Academy. We ended up losing, but the first half I think we were down something like 36-3. We were down by a lot, and then in the halftime, it was our homecoming too. But in the halftime, all of our in the locker room, all the teammates kind of got together and we talked about hey, no matter the score, we got to go out with the fight. And then we ended up coming back in the third quarter and scoring 30 points. Had some crazy turnovers, some crazy big plays, and we ended up losing by a couple points. But that just I don't know that feeling of rush and adrenaline, knowing that we had kind of started coming back, and that I don't know, that right there really showed me that no matter how much my team is down or whatever, we're always going to keep fighting. So even though we lost, that was still something pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, that is a great transition here, man. Let's go ahead and talk about not just that game, but last season as a whole here. So a little bit of a tougher season. I mean, went 4-6. This was, I would say, one of the tougher schedules y'all would have to play in a while. Beforehand, I know y'all were in that I-25 league, and so, there were a handful of not just playoff teams, but like top seeded playoff teams in the entire state that y'all played in the regular season. So that was obviously not easy at all here, but 4-6, right? Let's just kind of talk about the season as a whole here. So, what were some things you learned, and some notable things you went through this last season?
Yeah, I definitely learned to overcome adversity a little better because, like you're right. My sophomore year, we were in the I-25 league, and the competition of the teams we played in the regular season were nothing really compared to the teams that we played this year. So yeah, I don't know. I just learned to you gotta keep pushing, no matter how hard the opponent is. You can't try to let that get to your head prior to the game. We just gotta kind of stick to the game plan, and yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, that definitely makes sense here. I mean, just looking at the schedule, there weren't many games I would say y'all were favored against some of these top tier teams here. I mean, I'm looking at Denver South, that Capra, Caldwell combo, plus the running backs. That's obviously tough. They lost maybe 1 or 2 games in the regular season. Then you obviously have Vista Ridge and Palmer Ridge, both at the end there, who I'm pretty sure were both top 10. So that's obviously tough. And then even Pueblo East at the beginning of the season, I mean, they made the playoffs in 3A and were a pretty solid squad. And so, going into your second season as the full-time starter, I mean, obviously you learned those things. But I guess what was kind of your mentality back then going into your second season last year, back in 2022, and approaching every game and whatnot?
I was definitely a lot more confident because my sophomore year I kind of had to win the job, and that I knew if if I had a bad game or two that I might get taken out. But this year, yeah, I was a lot more confident. I also was awarded, or not awarded, but I was voted captain, like the first junior captain in like 12 years for Cheyenne Mountain. So that was really cool. That definitely helped. But my goal this past year was kind of just to, I don't know, win as many games as we can and do it as a team and try to have that, team mentality and, I don't know, go into practice, I don't know, with a good mindset of let's just try to get better every single day, do everything that we can to win as many games as we can because, and like we said, I knew our schedule was going to be a lot tougher. And I don't think, I think we started to realize that more as we started playing those tougher opponents because it's one thing to, look at the schedule, think about it, talk about it, but, once you actually, play those teams and stuff, you're like, okay, this is a higher level of football than what we played last year. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I guess for some of the listeners at home here, I am looking at the schedule from last year, and shoot, these last 6 games here, 5 of the last 6 games were teams that all made the playoffs. So I'm pretty sure Air Academy and Rampart made it as well.
They did,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's that's a tough go. I mean, but at that point, I mean, y'all only finished 4-6 just outside here. It would have only taken 1 or 2 of those games to win, which, we talked about this before we started recording here. I mean, the difference between winning 2 games and losing 2 games, it does matter at the end. But, it is what it is. You learn from those lessons here. And so that kind of brings us to this next season here. So just for the listeners out there, at the time we're recording this, it is June 17th, 2023. So almost probably a month. I'd say maybe exactly a month from when their season preview would drop. But I went ahead and gave Bruce, the season preview here, my notes. And I don't think I'm going to change any of these unless some big transfers happen. But, just kind of raw reacting to this thing here, Bruce. Well, what do you think of the season preview and some of these predictions here? Some of these games are a little hard to predict, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I agree. The first game, I think, like with the East quarterback transferring to another team we're going to end up playing, I think that'll make Vista Ridge a little harder to play, but East definitely easier just because that's the first game that we play. So I think them, like, playing them first game without their quarterback, that's going to be tough for them. I think it'll take them probably a couple games to get settled in and figure some stuff out. And then the Greeley Central, yeah. Yep. And then the Greeley Central one, I agree. I guess you said their quarterback's coming back. And yeah, Greeley Central, that was a weird game for us because it was like 7-7 at the end of the first quarter. Then we had like an hour and a half lightning delay. So it wasn't like, I don't know, it was like 9:30 by the time we started the second quarter, and then we ended up, finishing that game well. Yeah.
Oh, that was that first week of September, right? Where there was all that lightning up and down I-25?
Yep.
It had to have been. Okay, I got it. Yeah, no, I get that one. I should be at that game this year. He's my boy, the quarterback over there. I still have y'all favored in winning that one, though, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that'll be a good one because that'll be at home, and then that'll be our first home game, and we normally have some pretty big crowds, so.
Good. Okay. Well, let's move on let's just go team by team here on the schedule. So Canyon City here. It sounds a little disrespectful, in my notes here, but I'm going to say it exactly like this. I really feel like there's no reason y'all should lose that game. I know it's away, but that's a winnable game, wouldn't you think?
I agree. I don't know much about who they're bringing back. But yeah, last year that was a pretty good game for us. It wasn't a very high-scoring game, but we ended up beating them 21-0. They were actually ranked over us that game, so that was definitely kind of a satisfying win when you beat a team 21-0 when they were predicted to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and they are losing a lot. I know they are returning a running back. But one running back doesn't make the whole team, so we'll see how that goes for sure. But have y'all in that one. And then that kind of brings us to this Pueblo Centennial game back at home. Now, last year was a really close game, which is interesting. But this year, I mean, they're losing pretty much all the guys who really contributed a lot. I think they're losing their entire backfield, if I'm not mistaken there. But tell me about last year and then I guess the mindset going into this year's Pueblo Centennial game at home.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Last year was kind of a weird game. It was like a noon game. I think it was at noon in Pueblo. So I mean, it was steaming hot.
Yeah.
I actually that game I forgot my cleats, and we had a transfer who played rugby, so I wore soccer cleats that game. That I don't know. It was my mentality that game was a little off too, and then I think we went into that game thinking that coach was like, hey, we're gonna throw the ball a lot, and then we ended up just having to run the ball. So I think that our mentality, like I said, you have to overcome adversity. We thought we were going to do this, turn it up, didn't work out. Then at halftime, we kind of we're like, hey, guys, we got to get it together. Here's what we're going to do to win. And just kind of try to keep the I'm trying to figure out the word. Try to keep the guys in the locker room up. Don't let them get down because this is a game going into, we're thinking, oh, we should win, and then we're down 14-0, so guys are like, well, crap, and it's like, no, you got to stay with a good mindset, and then we, ended up going out in the halftime, scoring 2 touchdowns, then we had a huge safety that really just kind of sealed it and gave us that edge at the end of the game to kind of do what we wanted on offense, and ended up coming out of that one with a win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That ended up being a close win. But, hey, a win's a win regardless. Now, going into this season, I mean, like I said, a lot of the guys that really contributed to that effort for Centennial over there, they're gone. Quarterback, he's not there. Their running back, Roberts, he's not going to be there. And he had kind of a big game against y'all, too. And so this game will be on a Thursday, at least as of right now. So still a little bit of some interesting vibes here. But, I mean, would you agree that this is probably another, game that you're favored in at this point here.
I agree. Yeah, and it's at home. Yeah, they were going to be our homecoming, actually, but because it's a Thursday game, now Rampart is our homecoming.
That's interesting. Okay. I got you. Well, that's not too bad. At this point, though, so projection-wise, I mean, this is about the first month of the season here. Y'all should probably be 4-0 here. I think the only big game, I don't know. I don't want to disrespect any of these teams, but the matchup that will be really interesting to me is probably that Pueblo East game. Just kind of seeing where they're at more so. I mean, y'all should know who y'all are at this point, especially with you getting back there. But that might be an interesting one there. But other than that, I think at this point y'all should be 4-0. That does kind of lead to this one of the games here in the latter part of September against Denver South here. So I'm not going to be doing Denver South season previews. I'm pretty sure that is going to be Cody, but they are going to have a lot that they are going to also having to be replaced here, like Canyon City and Centennial. I believe they're both losing their quarterback. They're also losing some top wide receivers options here. Caldwell won't be there anymore, and I know there are some pieces of the defense that will be missing, but they do have two running backs in Chevelle and Orlando Guevara, who I think are pretty good here. So on my, and feel free to disagree, it's fine, but on my notes here, I kind of listed this one as a loss. First off, both those backs are really good, so it's going to be a handful to kind of stop them. And I don't expect them to throw the ball a whole ton, so I kind of feel like this will be a closer one here. But I have South favored here. So what do you think? I know obviously as the quarterback, you're going to feel like you could win every single game here, but all cards on the table going into Denver South. Up in Denver, this will be an away game. What's in your thoughts here right now here? What's on your mind going into that game here?
So I agree. That one, it'll be tough. It's going to be a tough game, win or lose. But I think that last year, our game plan going into it was very well. That the score at halftime was only 21-6. And that's what our game plan was to, if we can possess the ball and just have these really long drives that, kind of have to end up as touchdowns if we want to end up winning this game, that I say we have a shot. So I agree in a sense that, for us to win that game, yeah, we're going to have to kind of probably have a similar game plan. It's just possess the ball, score points, and stop them on defense, but I mean, that's what you have to do to win any game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree. That will be a tough one for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, if y'all do win this game, though, and assuming everything else went to plan, y'all would be at 5-0. That would already be a game over, and that would put y'all in an excellent spot here. But, also being at 4-1 is not a bad thing either, but obviously if you can steal that one away, that would be huge. That would just have to be, it's all hands on deck for South, though, and I think that's definitely a mentality y'all got to keep going into that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, fair enough there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. So Air Academy losing some really important pieces here. Sam Beers, their starting quarterback as well, Braden, a couple other pieces as well. I want to say their defense, they'll be losing 4 or 5 guys there. And so I did think, we talked about this before here, but I'm going to say it one more time. I did think they were going to get a transfer in Baruch Johnson from Pine Creek, who transferred from Florida the year before. He's a good lefty quarterback out there, but it looks like he has moved once more to Illinois. He is a military kid, so it makes sense. So there you go there. So Air Academy will be without basically their backfield here. In my opinion, I think this is probably a favorable game for y'all here, just looking at all the pieces that they're going to have to replace. Why don't you talk a little bit more about how last year's game went? I mean, you did already. It was a close game and whatnot, but how big of an impact do you think them losing Sam Beers and their quarterback will be?
Yeah, I think without those two guys, it'll be a lot. I don't know. Sam Beers was a big reason that we lost last year. I mean, he ran for I don't know how many yards, a lot. And the game last year, Air Academy is our rival, so I'm definitely excited to face them off my senior year and hopefully come out with the win. But yeah, last year they got the ball to start the game, scored a touchdown, then recovered an onside kick and scored a touchdown. So I hadn't even seen the ball yet, and we were down 14-0. So kind of, yeah, that was just a rough game. But like I said, we came out in the third quarter and really fought as hard as we could. Yeah, that one will be at their place too, and the crowd should be awesome for both sides, because normally whenever we play our academy, we travel well. So, but yeah, I think without those two guys, and I feel a lot more developed this year than I have and more confident than I have ever. So I don't know. I'm very excited to play our academy this year, especially since they beat us on homecoming last year.
Fair enough. That would be a big one as well here. Kind of, at the beginning at this, I would still say first half of the season, obviously starting off well to a season will be really important. I think that game kind of marks the midway point. Plus, like you said, with it being a rivalry, obviously if you get that dub, I mean, that's huge. Well, what's the word here? I'm trying to think of the word. Obviously, there are no moral victories, but beating them and them being a rival, that would not only be a real victory but a moral one as well, and that'll keep y'all going here into kind of a tough second half of the season here. I'm looking at these last 4 games and I'm like, all right, okay, well, let's talk about it. So Rampart here. So I'm not even gonna lie. On my season preview last year, I was way off base. I thought they were not going to be as good as they are, but they ended up being pretty solid here. They're losing some guys. I want to say quarterback again is going to be an issue, but it wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this is disrespectful or not. I just kind of feel like they didn't really use their quarterback a whole ton, and they kind of run the ball a bit, and so I don't know. I'm kind of just at the point where, they're going to play good defense. They're going to run the ball here. What do you think about this game here? I kind of have y'all losing this one just because, I don't know. To be fair, deep down, I feel like y'all could definitely beat them, but I don't know. I guess their defense is that good, right? This is definitely a team that I'm looking to watch here in the fall to get a closer look at once more. Personally.
Yeah, so last year that was a rough game for us, man. We went there, just the energy from the team itself, we just didn't start hot, and then just things kept not going our way. That game was extremely foggy. I know my parents from the sideline couldn't even see the other stands. It was cold. It was an away game. I don't know, and I think that was a game, again, where we were seeded to win, and so we went in probably with not a right mindset of, we got to do whatever it takes. We're like, oh, we're seeded to win, which is not the mentality you want to have going into a game. So I think we kind of got caught off guard there, and then we just never really caught our footing before the end of the game. And I think that, I don't know. So I'm excited for that one for sure. One, because that was their homecoming. They beat us. Now they're our homecoming, and since we lost on ours last year, I'm definitely, looking forward for a little revenge.
Say less. I like it. That should be a good game, I would think. And I know what you're talking about with the fog. That was a weird day in general, so I definitely get that. But all right, well, obviously you'll take all the wins you can get, especially at this point, because your next 2 games, and we'll talk about both of them kind of clumped together here. You got the Ridges, Vista Ridge, Palmer Ridge. You play Vista at home and then Palmer away. Obviously, even if you had to travel, it's not like it's the longest bus ride either. But even then, I mean, Vista Ridge, obviously they're losing some pieces, but, they're well coached. Zayden Stevens from East, he'll be there. I don't know if he will be the starter. I I'm just gonna be honest. I've heard my share of rumors. I know we're certain coaches to lie, when it comes to lie as in who they side with which quarterback they want between him and Ben Noblet, who's also a junior over there as well. But regardless, they'll be tough, throwing the ball a whole lot. And then you got Palmer Ridge over there. They're returning their quarterback as well here. I want to say you and Derek Hester over there are some of the few quarterbacks here, at least South Side here in Colorado Springs, that will be returning for their squad. And, they're always tough. But, look, I have them as losses right now here. But, what do you think about those two squads here, if you want to talk about them a little bit here, Vista and Palmer?
Yeah, Vista Ridge and Palmer Ridge are both going to be like hand-in-hand tough games, especially back-to-back in the end of the season. Vista Ridge has a loaded squad, and so does Palmer Ridge. They both got a lot of talent. I just think that we're going to, probably game plan as that happens to do what we think we have to do to win. But both of those are going to be tough games. And Derek, the quarterback at Palmer Ridge, he's great. He also goes to Jenkins Elite, so I know him, and I knew Braden went there too, so I knew Braden last year, the quarterback that was at Vista Ridge. So,
Dorman.
Both of those are going to be Dorman, yes sir, yeah, Braden Dorman. Both of those are just going to, I'll be honest, they're going to be very tough games to win, but, like I said, we'll game plan when that comes, and we'll try to do what we can.
Hey, I like that answer. You can't go. I'm not trying to bait you into a bad answer or a bad look here, but I like it. So I definitely got you there. But that does kind of lead to this last game here against Coronado. Look, I would probably think by this point, you either have locked up your playoff spot or maybe you're on that edge, just kind of depending on some of how these games before that Vista Ridge, Palmer Ridge, or before those matchups happen. It kind of just depends, on the rest of the games before that here. But you play Coronado. I think y'all should be able to win this one. I know they have a great athlete over there in reality, but I just feel like this is a dub y'all should be able to get. And in case there's not enough motivation, it's probably a win that you would still feel safer getting at the end of the season just to secure that playoff spot. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I agree. So Reality's coming back though, because I remember he was pretty good for them last year.
Yeah, he'll be a senior. Okay.
Yeah, no, that game last year, it was really cold. It rained and then it froze, so then we had clumps of ice on the bottom of our cleats. It was a cold one for sure. But no, I agree. I think that one should be to win, and we'll still game plan like we will every other game to do what we think we have to do to win. And that'll be senior night. It'll be at home too, so I think the energy will. I think it'll be good. And like you said, especially maybe if the playoffs are on the line, we might be a little more fired up.
Yeah, no, absolutely there. And so with that being said, I'm pretty sure I have y'all at 6-4 here. Right through these 10 games here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 6-4. Only losses being to Vista Ridge, Palmer Ridge, and then Rampart and Denver South here. I made this note here. I really feel like y'all could beat Rampart. That would be a big game if y'all could beat them, because I kind of feel like just projecting things moving forward, that is probably going to be a team you're going to be fighting for a playoff spot with. And so if you could have that head-to-head matchup, that would be huge. So there's that. Denver South, I think, could be a closer game, but I'm not going to hold y'all to that one. I think the next important game would probably be that Pueblo East game, because obviously it's the first game. You want to set the tone, all that. And also I think that would be a good way to kind of, just get this winning streak started here, if ever, right? Right at the beginning, setting that tone and get going. And so I'm looking at that Pueblo East and that Rampart game as being really important to y'all's chances here at the playoffs here. So got y'all predicted at 6-4 with a window of wins of 4-6 here. What do you think about that? just in general. I mean, it's a prediction. Obviously, I'm going with what I know and what I know about other teams as well.
Yeah, so I agree. I think those two games are going to be really big parts of our season, especially the Pueblo East game, because we played them the past 2 years, even when we were in the I-25 league, and we lost them both at home. So I'm definitely that's a team that I'm excited to play. And I mean, we played them in 7-on-7 last summer too, and we've seen them a lot. And I want to win that one. That's one that I would really love to win. And I agree. I think starting off with a win, and then playing the other opponents that, not saying that any game's going to be easy, but those next, 4 or 5 games probably will not be as hard as the last couple.
Sure,
if we can start off good and then, hopefully take that momentum and keep it going, up until, the Rampart game, which will be at home in our homecoming. But no, I mean, I 100% agree. I think those two games are going to be very, very important to our season. And kind of,
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And, with that being said, we just talked about this season here. Let's talk about your team here. So, y'all are losing some pretty important pieces here. Zach Johnson, he was y'all's lead rusher, had 1,000 yards and 7-ish touchdowns. Also added on 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's a little bit of a secondary receiving threat there. You're also losing Gabriel Lucas. He was your lead receiver with 900 yards and 12 touchdowns, plus, a solid part of that defense as well as your second lead receiver with Brody Dwyer. And then on defense, you are losing a couple guys here. Hayden Kuppenmeyer. Hopefully I'm saying that right. That's right.
Hayden Kuppenheimer, yeah.
Kuppenheimer, okay, yeah. And then Jake Quadhammer as well. Just, bigger bodies, right, on that front line. And then speaking of line, you're also losing a tackle in Lucas Geiger. But altogether, I mean, they're returning you, obviously. They're only losing about 6 of y'all's top 13 tacklers, so it could definitely be worse. I mean, you're returning about half the defense, basically at that point there. And I believe... correct me if I'm wrong here, but including Lucas here, you're losing 2 offensive linemen or starters?
Yeah, we're losing a couple.
Okay.
A couple. I think we had I think we're losing 3 linemen, 3 offensive linemen, 3 starters anyway.
Okay, so obviously losing some pretty impactful players. I mean, do you want to speak a little bit about how, that impact will be felt on the team and whatnot, losing a lot of great players here and some key pieces to your team, at least last year, I would say. Do you want to just talk about their impact there?
Yeah, I think they had a very positive impact on the team, both, on the field and off the field, whether that be at practice when it came to team morale, especially Lucas Geiger and Isaiah Wilson, both guys that are going to college for football. So it's gonna suck to have them gone, especially just because the energy they brought to the team. Lucas being a captain this year, and Isaiah Wilson, who also easily could have been a captain. So, yeah, not having them around will be harder, on the field and off the field, but I'm excited to see what they go and do in college. But I'm also I really do believe in the guys coming up to fill their shoes, and I think they'll do well there. And, yeah, losing guys also like Gabe and Zach and Brody, who not only are, really good on the field, we're a very tight-knit group off the field. That's also going to be tough. But I think the guys under them aren't very far behind when it comes to picking up where they left off. So,
yeah, no, that's absolutely fair here. Well, let's talk about some of those guys here. So when I listed off the key players, obviously you were there, but I also listed off your teammates Griffin LaRue here, and then Levi. Is it Hauger or Hoger?
Hauger.
Yeah,
okay, right.
There you go. Yeah. Both of those guys mostly on the defensive side here. I mean, really productive, though. That's your second leading tackler and third leading tackler right there. So defensively, I mean, It could be worse. It could definitely be worse. It always helps to return leaders like that or guys who are high productive players there, so that'll obviously be huge to your defense. And I mean, just kind of watching Cheyenne Mountain and knowing y'all's tendencies and how y'all are coached up, usually year by year, it's not like, and this is no disrespect to any individual player, but it's not exactly like the toughest replacing players in some of that production. Eventually somebody, takes their place and gets going. I remember covering y'all years ago. It was years ago, back near 2021 here, with one of the Boley boys over there, or I think maybe both of them were over there. And
yeah,
I remember thinking, man, how are they going to replace these guys? And then the next year, y'all were still good. And then I remember thinking, man, how are you going to replace those guys? But then, y'all were still okay after that. And so going into this year, I talked about those two there. If you want to talk about them, go ahead. But, what are some other guys you're really looking to step up and maybe even have a breakout season for y'all this year in the place of all these guys that you are losing?
Yeah, I'll talk about the Boley brothers. I mean, they're awesome. Jesse Boley, I never really got to know the other Boley that well, the older brother. But actually, they have a freshman who's going to be on the football team this year. I don't think he'll. He's a great player, great kid. He probably won't do much on varsity this year, but I expect a big future out of him.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a couple transfers actually. We have one who I am so excited about. He got here in February, and we've been throwing. He's a tight end. He's from Virginia. He's 6'6", 225. So having him come out of nowhere is a huge blessing. So I expect, his name is Jackson Garrett. I expect him to be a big part of the offense. Brad Reagan, who was our center this year or last year, but he's kind of moved around the line a little bit. And then we got our, receiver, Will Weinstein, this will be his third year starting on varsity at our receiver. I expect a big year out of him since we have that chemistry of 3 years of throwing. And then we have our kicker and receiver, Jimmy Hansen, Oscar Waterhouse, guys like Tyler Chris, who also play receiver. Also, I won't tell you too much about what's going on, but our offense this year is completely different. I don't want to spoil it, but you'll see. It's an entire new offense. My coach he's been thinking about doing it for years, but he thinks that he has the guys this year that can really be able to make that transition now that he's been the coach for a couple years. And now that he's been studying this other offense very well. So it's going to be an entirely new look when it comes to everything to formations, plays, shotgun, under center, all that stuff.
Interesting. Okay. We'll definitely be keeping that in mind here. And I'll also be looking up this Jackson Garrett kid as well as a potential watch list guy because, we'll have that releasing here in a month. But, you listed a lot of receivers, which is obviously great. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but it does kind of sound like they'll be relying on you a little bit more here going into this season. And you know what? I do want to talk, I guess, about some of the I haven't said it yet, but some of the things I will say on the season preview here. Look, going into this year, I think it's going to be your senior year. I think you're going to get the keys to the car, right? More so than the last couple of years, because I feel like the last couple of years you always had a couple great running backs to rely on. I think this year, I'm sure there's going to be some running back that comes up and does his thing, but I think you're going to be one of the engines to this offense here. And I really want to see this happen here, but I think the only thing I said is that you just got to kind of clean up some of those turnovers, get a little bit more efficient, and I think you could potentially get them back into the playoffs here because there are some games where it came down to some smaller scores and there are some mistakes here and there. I think just clean some of those things up. And at this point, you're going to be a 3-year starter. I don't think that's that crazy to say, but I really think once you do that, clean up some of those turnovers here, get a little bit more efficient. This could be a dangerous squad here, a squad that could definitely be a playoff team. I would say. I think that is definitely something that could happen and is not far-fetched, but It really kind of just depends on, I would say and how well you play and how efficient you are. Obviously you have the rest of the team to rely on. I would expect your defense to play just as well as any other defense the next couple of years. But, what do you think about what I had to say about you there, or what I will say on this season preview here?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the better I played, the better the team will do. And I think that, those are some things that I've worked on in the off season for sure is, being more efficient, whether that's, being able to read a defense better to help with those turnovers, or just footwork, form, or even just team chemistry. So trying, to go out and throw with as many guys as I can get out there. But yeah, and I think that, there has been some very good established running backs the past couple of years. We also have another transfer who was there last year, but he got there late. Troy, I can't think of his last name. Oh, Troy, starts with an H, but he's from South Africa. He's a rugby kid. So he'll definitely get some reps at running back, and I think he'll shock some people for sure, just because he's a great athlete, great at rugby, and he kind of brings that style of rugby to football, which is awesome to see him develop and kind of learn the game of football, but also still play. And like I said, I think there's also a lot of other seniors on the team who have also been really working hard. Levi Hauger, Griffin LaRue, who got 4th in the state for his weight class and wrestling, and Levi's a thrower on our track team. I think collectively as a group, the more that we can kind of come together and work as a team and use our skill sets together, I think we can do really well this year.
Say less, man. Well, definitely excited for y'all this year here. Per usual, since I'm down in the Springs, I will be following y'all and, covering y'all when I can here. I will say this. It kind of just depends on some, I guess, on everyone else's schedules and whatnot. But I am kind of eyeing this Greeley Central game here. I know it'll be y'all's first one here. And I haven't been to a Cheyenne Mountain game before. I've passed by y'all's stadium over there and whatnot a couple of times, but really looking forward to go to that one. I know Genoa, Greeley Central's quarterback, and so it'll be a good opportunity to, watch him without driving 5 hours there and back. So that'll be huge. And then obviously I'll get to watch you again. I don't think I was able to watch you last year, but I watched you 2 years ago against Falcon, I want to say. So
yeah, that game that was also a weird game because we needed to win that game to win the playoffs, and I think we ended up just running the ball a lot, with Nico Gallardi in the backfield and guys blocking for him like Jesse Boley, and that was an interesting game for sure. But yeah, you should definitely come to the Greeley Central game. I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll go to that one. I am eyeing some of these other ones, Air Academy, Rampart, Coronado kind of at the very end. It just depends. I mean, the later it is in the season, the harder it is to predict what games to go to as that playoff picture changes here. Yeah. But definitely we'll be watching y'all, you and your boys play live here, so super excited about that. And honestly, man, wishing y'all the best of luck out there this season.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for coming onto the show here. Like I said, best of luck going into the next season. This should be a big senior year here for you, man. So, honestly, wishing you all the best of luck and, stay sharp out there.
Thanks. I appreciate it for this opportunity to come on here. And, I'll keep you posted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But that'll wrap up this episode of the Playmakers Corner. Make sure you go ahead and check out that season preview here, Cheyenne Mountain season preview, along with a lot of other teams here from Colorado Springs as well. I know some of the opponents that we talked about will be mentioned in that season preview, the same one as Cheyenne Mountain. So go ahead and check that out. And then show some love on social media at Playmakers Corner. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well, where we'll be posting clips from this interview and from season previews as well. And then keep tuning in as we're going to have more interviews and season previews with more players and talk about all the teams before we go into this 2023 Colorado high school football season. But, with that being said, I've been your host, Simon Villanoz, a.k.a. Coach V, and we will catch you later.